So they always say old tractors are a gateway drug because after you buy one or two, or 9, same difference, sooner or later you're going to want some old equipment to actually get to use the things with, and that is why I picked this up here. Behold, the yellow 5-foot pull type shredder of awesomeness. I have no idea what brand this is. I see some casting numbers up on the gearbox, but no markings or tags or anything. And you can see where there was a sticker or something at one point, but whatever the case, I picked this up, so hopefully I'll get to do some shredding with some of the old tractors. And man, I guess I'll just kind of take a look at this thing here. This is probably going to be under the category of a winter project. It doesn't seem like it needs that much. Famous last words. I've been looking at this and honestly it seems like it's in really good shape. The deck on this thing, there's almost no rust damage, almost no rust holes in it. There's a couple little like quarter-sized patches here. You can see like that hole right there, but really nothing that I would consider to be worth worrying about. It uses a shear pin design instead of a slip clutch, so we don't have to worry about that being rusted solid. And it doesn't actually seem like it's really leaking much. Maybe that front seal there. I don't see any grease coming out the bottom. I think this has been fairly recently pressure washed, but even with that being said, it looks really, really clean. Now, of course, most of my older equipment doesn't have a 3-point hitch, or at least a functional one, so I can't use a shredder like that one there. So I got this thing thinking, not only will I use it with the older equipment, because you guys really seem to like those videos, and the other thing is, if I'm shredding some really nasty stuff, the newer tractors, as much as they're nice with AC and a radio to listen to, that has wires and electrical components and hydraulic hoses running everywhere. But some of the older machines, this one's a bad example because it's got a 3-point hitch. I mean, there's like 10 feet of wiring on the entire tractor and no hydraulic lines to worry about. And everything is really cheap if I do impale something with a stick or whatever. So partially for fun, partially for really nasty stuff, I actually do plan to use this thing. It seems like it's in pretty good shape. Like even this PTO shaft, there's next to no play in this. All that side-to-side play you're seeing is from where the shear pin goes. But like even the U-joints in this thing are really, really tight. And if they're not, yeah, see, that's all in the shear pin system. So, and even if they're not, we're talking like a trip to the auto parts store and they measure those and, under 20 bucks a U-joint to replace them. Seal's probably gonna be a few bucks. I should take that out and measure it and order one at some point. But what I'm gonna do over the course of the off season is get that fixed up, change the oil in this, give it some new blades, because I looked under here, the blades are probably like 8 inches shorter than they're supposed to be. They might be the original blades, but that's okay, that's a pretty universal part. And one new tire. This tire looks pretty good actually. It's kind of thin. It's a trailer tire, like maybe 6-ply, yeah, 6 PR range. So it's a little thin, but whatever, it should work. This tire, however, this thing is like probably several of my lifetimes old and it's fully inflated. I don't know who put air in this, but they're a braver man than I. Look, even the skid plates on this thing, this isn't rubbed through anywhere. And I guess I've never actually used one quite like this. But I guess we turn this crank and it changes the angle of the wheels and thus the height of the deck. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's got any missing teeth in the gearbox or anything. Famous last words. So this should be a pretty much perfect match for him. It's not as wide, but it shouldn't take nearly as much power to run. It doesn't require a 3-point hitch, which actually none of those tractors have, at least a functional one. The Deere kind of has a fabric cobbled one I'm probably gonna take off. But yeah, check it out. All right, so there you go. This is a random video of the day. Probably not the most exhilarating video I've ever made in my life, but this is just sort of an update, I guess sort of a spoiler for a smaller project that's coming soon, probably like maybe even only one video that comes out of working on this thing. And then I actually plan to put some hours on the old tractors and make some videos of doing so. So whatever the case, just a random little video. Hope you enjoyed it. And I gotta figure out the best place to find blades and the measurement on that seal. Thanks for watching, guys.